There we go. All right. And welcome everyone to the 10K Rum podcast. We're on episode 115. I'm joined by my co-host.
Bought this thing. I've got to use it.
Yeah. I'm joined by my co-host Brook Potter, who's in the UK. And it is oh man. How many days in quarantine, Brooke?
No, I'm out. We are finally out of quarantine out here in Wales. I got out this Monday, just gone. So I've been finally back in the gym. I've been hitting the pub. I've been getting wasted, hitting on chicks. It's been living my best life for almost 4 weeks of lockdown that we've had. Now, England has just gone back in, but I'm in Wales. So I got out 2 weeks before them. So I'm very much enjoying myself and living. The only thing I got to sort out is my ridiculous, Moses that's growing on my face at this point. I mean, it does get pretty cold out here, but I don't think I need this much insulation.
No, I think it looks good, but I'm also a libertarian, so.
I was going to say, speaking of Moses. So real quick before we get into what's going on today on the show, for anyone who's joining us for the first time or longtime viewers of any kind, do check out our previous episodes. They go all the way back to coming in July. It'll be on 3 years, so 2017. So we have 100 some odd episodes here. Check out our previous ones. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment. Or if you'd like to support the show in a couple of different ways, you could go to tacticalsoap.com.
Yes, Tactical Soap. I forgot about Tactical Soap.
Yes. Come on, man.
Okay, I'm sorry. Talk about.
I got a whole bunch more. Sorry, Tactical Soap. Check out the link below. Use the coupon code 10K Rum. 10% off goes is basically the kickback gives back to us. Check out Subscribe Star. Links all below for that, where you can pledge to the show on a monthly basis and be able to get perks through that. We just did a raw takes video. Basically, Brooke and I were pretty, I guess. I was basically letting anyone know what I really think about all these awesome lockdowns that we're having right now. Minnesota's back in lockdown, so and the prospect of Thanksgiving. So, anyways, now we're gonna be, of course. Look,
this is Tactical Soap.
Yeah.
The first thing you see is a woman literally tackling a man because of how good he smells.
It does have pheromones. It actually has pheromones in it. So
you actually they won't actually let you get up. So if you're into that, then the Grondike Soap Company has some fantastic news for you.
That's it.
Yes.
Ask Amos about all of that, man. He's been using it for a while now.
Yeah, I remember I had a woman over and she saw it in the bathroom and was like, "You and your man soap." And I was like, "What?"
Why aren't you tackling me?
Stop talking, bitch.
Oh, you were supposed to. Wow. Okay.
Well, so we
do things differently in Wales.
Yeah, they do very differently. Coming, of course. Man, I lost my train of thought. So,
I'm Spike Cohen, by the way.
Yeah, we have a guest. We do have a guest.
For today, guys, we're having a returning guest to talk about the election. A friend of mine, Spike Cohen,
mine. That's we're having a friend of mine to talk about this election that happened.
A very, very awesome guy that I know.
Because he's my friend.
That's
why we're having him on,
and nothing
I
more.
know him personally,
nothing more.
For no other reason.
Nothing to do with running for the vice presidency.
So
it's not important.
Because he's my friend.
Yeah, we had.
How do you think I got the job, Spike?
I know but I love it. It's everyone is like, "Hey, this is my friend." It's like that's the head of the UN. He's my friend.
Actually, I would say in a way you're probably one of the soonest returning guests in terms of the window between your first and your second time on the show.
The distinctions that you've come up with this why I'm on this show. I love it. You're on this show because you're my friend, and because I wanted to break the record for returning guests. And now we've accomplished that. Thanks for coming on, Spike. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
So, former, now retired vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. You put that on your own page.
That's true.
Spike Cohen, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you both for having me, Brook and Amos. It's fantastic to be back. And I retired VP candidate. And so I actually had someone write me and say, I had a couple of people write me and say, you're retired doesn't mean that you're finished for good, doesn't? I'm like, no, retired to me is a little different. I was retired when I sold my company. So now I was briefly not retired. Yeah, now I'm retired again, but it doesn't indicate. I guess when you retire from something in your mid to late 30s, it means you can come back. Like it's so that's the way I see it. It's retired. Otherwise, I would have had to put losing VP candidate, former candidate who lost.
Oh,
like capital L, and then next to that small L.
Small L.
0 and 1 vice presidential candidate. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good. So, thanks for coming on again. Of course, we're having you on today to talk about a variety of things. First off, we want, of course, ask you kind of like get your thoughts on such on the campaign, as well as how everything went at the election night event. You know, your thoughts on that, because this is, I would say. So for me, when I was like hearing about the Libertarian candidates, I honestly think, let's say this year, maybe at like January, February time, just before the quarantine and everything.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Libertarian candidates and just kind of thought, like, in general, I didn't really like look at anyone specific. I just thought, well, I don't see anyone. Like, it wasn't giving me that real good feeling. Like, when I started hearing about Gary Johnson, and then I started seeing him on the news and all this, and these little events he's doing.
Yeah.
And it was then Caitlin, so Caitlin Cloven, who actually reached out on Facebook and said, hey, I'm looking for people who want to work with me on the campaign. And I was like, okay, which one? And I didn't know. So I just reached out and said, hey,
so this was still during like the nomination contest.
Yeah, way before that. Okay. Before even the first Zoom call thing, the Zoom convention.
The Zoom call thing.
Well, so I reached out to her and she goes, hey, I'm working for Joe Jorgensen, and I want, this is going to be something that it's going to be like a paid thing. So I want you to do this and this. It just depends upon what happens with the nomination. I thought, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Just whatever will come of that. And then then I kind of found myself every other day, then eventually kind of every day, like tracking what's going on. And having looked at the Joe's website, and then of course seeing some of her content, and then talking to Caitlin more, then of course Joe got nominated.
Yep.
And going into that, running her Twitter for those couple months, and then switching on over to working with you. When I met you in Columbus, I had no idea what to really expect from you as a person. I just kind of like showed up. So the first time I met you was in that hotel room with Matt and Caitlin.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yes.
And I basically, because I was like, they were like, hey, want to come out? And I was like, sure. So I come out. And I show up, I'm sitting there, and you just kind of walked in like, hey, you just gave me like this awkward, like, hey, and I'm like, hi. I'm like, I don't know, I'm like, okay, you kind of
totally not weird.
Yeah, and you guys were just talking and stuff, and it took me a while before I like warmed up and talked to you.
I was awkward?
No, it wasn't awkward. It just seemed like you just.
Obviously, you weren't sure of who Amos was.
Yeah, you didn't want to be like.
Oh, you know what? Okay. I was trying to make it. So I'm trying to figure out who you are.
Yes, and I would imagine that's the case.
I had seen, and so when they came in, I'm like, hey, and I'm like, who is this? And then they're like, this is Amos. And then I'm like, oh, it's Amos Joseph. And I knew you from Facebook, but I was like trying to make that connection. So that was that brief moment of like walking into the hotel room and then seeing you there. And I'm like,
in the room, like,
like, hi, who is it? Oh, and that was the other thing. We were, okay, that's where it was. We were talking campaign stuff. And I'm like, is this someone that's with
guy?
The campaign? Yeah. And
I'm a reporter.
I'm not, as a candidate, I'm not, is this a report? Is he going to hit me with gotchas now? But no, I wasn't covered by NDA because I'm a candidate, but they were. So I'm like, what am I able to say now? So I think that was probably what it was.
Oh, and I was too, by the way. Nice little
who just so happened, is a friend of Amos. That's actually what I lead with.
A good Frank Conk who watches the show, but
if you do the Google Analytics on the website for people that came to find me, they look for Spike Cohen, friend of Amos.
Friend of Amos.
That's the number one.
That's how popular our show is, Spike.
I've been using it to get girls for months now, man. It's gold.
I mean,
like, hey, did you know that I use tactical soap and also am friends with Spike Cohen?
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. But so work, and then that's kind of the beginning of when I kind of switched over and started working with because Caitlin was transferred over to be the social media director for you.
Yep.
And then I started working over there too with you. And you're just the cooler candidate, really.
Can we say that now? Can we actually say that now?
You could have said that then. I mean, you can say whatever you want.
Right.
I mean, free Anglosphere.
Speaking as an outsider, I was, I have to say it now. I'm glad it's over. But Joe, unfortunately, was kind of forgettable at some point. There was definitely obviously y'all are playing off each other. Y'all are two very different characters, but you were definitely the more charismatic of the two. And one of my friends on Twitter, his response once the campaign was over is like, "Thank God I could finally unfollow, Joe Jorgensen for president." It's like, because he was so bored. Now that's not me. That's a friend speaking, but it's over now. It's water under the bridge. You survived. I survived
the campaign of 2020. Listen,
you did.
I just want to say something because I get asked that. People will say, "Thank you so much for your sacrifice." And sir, I certainly gave up a lot of time, and I didn't get to go to the beach except that one day in Miami, which kind of made up for it. But usually, like, I live 5 blocks from the beach. Usually during the summer, every day I'm at the beach. Almost pretty much if there's not like a thing I have to do that day, and usually I even still try to work in the beach. Like, I'm that guy. And this day I did 0 days on my own beach because I wasn't here. All that to say, I had a fantastic time, guys. I went to 35 states. I went East Coast, West Coast, North, South. I visited as far south as Miami, as far north as either New Hampshire or North Dakota, whichever of those is further north. Or I guess maybe Washington might be. Anyway, I went to California, and I did Southern California, Northern California. I did Nebraska and Kansas. I went to all these different places. I went to like over 60 different locations where people are cheering my name, and interacted with something like, 15,000 people, give or take, during a pandemic. It was like the most fun thing I've ever done in my life. Like, it was amazing. And it went on for months and months. And like, I barely slept at all because it was like you wake up and it felt like this James Bond thing where you get up and you got to get off the bus and get on a plane and get into the hotel and then get back on the bus and then go do this interview. And then there's a media hit here. And then you also got to then, there's this arrest happening. So you got to be at that. And then you got to be back on the bus and you got to, like, it was the coolest thing and to culminate with that awesome election night party. It was a lot of fun. Like, I had a really good time, and I got to do what I wanted to do, which was to leverage the campaign to spread an unvarnished, unapologetic, and engaging message of liberty that brought people into the movement and into the party who hadn't previously heard of it, And that energized and excited existing members and activists who aren't just like, yes, I'm a libertarian and this is what I believe, and hopefully one day we can get enough of us, but they want to go out into the streets. I have hundreds of people messaging me now. What's the next thing? What are we going to do? Not, hey, I'll see you in 2024 or see whoever the candidate is in 2024, but what can we do now? What can we do next month? What can we do next year? So that was my goal. That was the goal, was to make this an exciting campaign, because we often don't have those. We have candidates and then they go away. And Larry Sharp said in his podcast recently, he said, I've got nothing against Joe and Spike, but the candidates, historically the candidates, they come, they do their thing, they work very hard, and then they go away. And a bunch of, and I didn't even have to say it, a bunch of the people in the comments were saying, Spike's not going away, Spike's doing this, Spike's doing that. And that's the point, is this was not about just this campaign. It was about start leveraging it to grow the message of liberty. And then from what I knew would be us not getting elected, we run to win, but we knew we weren't going to win. We hoped to get more than we got, but we knew we weren't going to win. And coming off of that, whoever we brought into the movement during that campaign and whoever we re-excited during that campaign, now move on to the next thing. Now let's grow the party. Now let's win Natalie Bruno's special election in Oklahoma in February or March. They haven't picked a date yet, but let's work on that together. Now let's get all these states their ballot access back. Now let's grow this number of local affiliates. Let's go win some midterm elections at the federal level. Like, let's keep leveling up. And that was the goal. And so far, mission accomplished on every front. And it's been fantastic. And you asked about my thoughts on the election night party. I mean, you were there, man. It was crazy. It was we had a lot of fun. Do
expand on the crazy. That's kind of what people want to hear.
Here's the thing, though, because I'm been sober for many years now, for 14 years now. I didn't have as much of a crazy experience as some others did, but Amos had fun, but Amos, I don't think he had a rager, did you?
No. I was more observed. Like, so I'll talk. Like, my experience was I showed up with let's see. So Caitlin and I were there, and she went to go meet up with some people. I was hanging out in the beginning with Ken Molman, the vice chair of the party.
Yeah, vice chair. Yep.
He bought me a drink. We were talking a bit. And I'll add this a little later, but something we were talking about, but was just mingling and meeting with a lot of other people, and actually funny, I've already shown this on the podcast, but I somehow got one of these. Yes. Is that who is that a signed one? Okay, so it's printed with a signature. It's not signed.
No, that's signed.
Oh, I thought. I mean,
no, that's
someone
signed
was saying
with a gold Sharpie. No, that's signed by her.
No, that's a printed signature.
Oh,
so they have a sticker with a signature, but apparently she was signing them as well. So it's a signature.
She got a signature print. I would have liked to have my hands like this from side. Like,
I mean, the only mention of you is like here, down there. That's about
Cohen.
it.
Yeah.
Cohen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm, being how absolutely ridiculously strong this is. It's barrel strength. So this stuff will last me a good few decades.
That's good. Well, there you go.
It'll preserve you into the afterlife as well. I'm sure
it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, we had it was a really cool opportunity to meet with some of the top activists across the country, some of the most dedicated people in the movement. And a lot of the people that I had been interacting with and working with very closely every single day, sometimes, every hour of every day, but had never actually met in person. So that was really cool to be able to do that. And I got to give the speech that I wanted to give, which was that, this is about, this is after running a campaign where we talk about what we're going to do when we win the election, because that's what you have to do. Let's talk about what we accomplished that we were hoping to actually feasibly be able to accomplish. 30% increase in membership just this year alone, which is huge, bringing us to the highest level, bringing us to our highest level. 19% increase in people registering as libertarians just since March. And there was a third thing, and I'm trying to remember.
The campaign was 75% non-party affiliated.
Yes, 75% of the people that we brought in were not members of the party, which is a great opportunity to bring in a ton of people. And because a lot of the people that were part of the campaign and were activists still aren't members of the party. So we're working on getting them into that fold and getting them in the permanent culture of libertarianism and bringing them in. Because what I learned from this campaign going around the country, we had all sorts of stuff happening at the national level. We had all sorts of stuff happening with the national party, all things that were absolutely good and necessary. The bulk of the heavy lifting that I saw happening was happening at the grassroots level. It was everyday activists, people whose names, some of them I didn't even hear their names or never even got to meet them, but they were doing incredible heavy lifting that was happening in locations across the country. I was seeing, and I got, this was the beauty of the way that we campaigned, doing these bus tours and stuff. I got to see stuff people were doing, putting up signs, putting up GoFundMes to get billboards, all this stuff that was happening with people that weren't even directly working with the campaign. They were just doing it on their own accord. And I realized in that moment that the way that we grow our voter base and the way that we grow our activist base is here. It's good to have that stuff, that infrastructure at the top. We need all that stuff. But it's at the grassroots where it's really at. Because it's at the grassroots where it's not something that has to be funded. These people want to fund it themselves. They just have to know that this exists. They have to know that there's an actual movement to set this country free and to set this world free for that matter. And when they have that, when they know it exists, they will be drawn to it and they will do the hard work. But we got to let them know it exists. We got to let them know that we support them. We got to let them know that we have a common goal that they do. And that's what I plan to do. That is my singular focus for the next few years.
Yep. And the big thing really is, and I think a lot of people had the understanding in the campaign, is you're running for running for vice president. Joe Jorgensen running for president.
Mm-hmm.
You're running. It's a weird duality that like you're running and you're not going to win, but it is like more about that it's like a very strong secondary objective is to bringing people in. Because one thing I'll say that I didn't really think would happen was being part of the campaign has made me now that everything's kind of over, I'm going to become more involved with the Minnesota party.
Yep, exactly.
Because I've really felt, because of 2016, and how that just kind of died out. Like, I didn't even know about how, all the stories about how Johnson and Weld kind of weren't really part of anything afterwards. And you said,
no, they went away.
It just kind of disappeared. Johnson more than Weld will tweet about libertarian stuff, and you'll hear about him, but it's like in terms of involvement with the party.
That's the extent of it, though. That's the extent of it. And a lot of people, it was interesting trying to explain to new people who are like, why isn't Gary Johnson out here, to say to them, this is actually kind of the tradition within the party. They just sort of go away. And
because did you go to New Mexico?
I went to Albuquerque.
Cool.
And no, he wasn't
there, right?
He lives there. Yeah.
Didn't he try to run? Is Bill Well ran for governor or something like that in one of the states recently? But he did it as a Republican.
No,
did he not?
No, you were right. Well, so both things. So Gary Johnson ran as a libertarian for Senate in New Mexico in 2018.
Right. Okay.
And then 15%, I believe.
Yeah, he got 15%. Bill Weld ran for ran for the presidential nomination.
Yeah, it's a primary Trump or something.
Republican, and Vermin Supreme got more votes than him.
The Trump train was very hard to crack. That was never going to work.
Yeah,
there was nothing there. There was no whatever. I'm not sure what. Anyway, I'm not sure what that was. What that was about, but that was destined to go absolutely nowhere. So. Yes, you asked about how we run that weird duality. I said this many times, and I say it again. And if I were to run for something, that was equally, low odds of happening, I'd still run to win. I've been in business for over 20 years now. I've been doing activism for several years now. I have never done anything with the intention of losing admirably or failing well. You have to do it with the idea of winning. When I was trying to get, massive contracts from, these whales of companies, and I was competing against, major firms that had entire marketing teams, and it was just me doing my own marketing, and I had a handful of people that would do that, that would do the work once I got the project type of thing. I would always go in with the idea that I'm going to get this, and a couple times I actually got them, and then many other times when I didn't get it, I would still develop contacts and still develop relationships within that company or sometimes within the competing companies and do collaboration work with them. It always ended up being a good use of my time, but I didn't go in saying, yeah, well, I'm trying to get it, but we're not going to get it. So what I'd really like to do is this. I don't think that inspires people. I don't think that that gets people behind it, but you also have to be honest with them. When people would say, what are your odds? I'd say, I think we all know what our odds are here. Like, we're not even getting media coverage. So, we are going to run as hard as we can to try to win it. But we also have to be honest with the people that however well we do, our goal outside of trying to win the election is to try to get this party as big as possible. Because it was recently told to me that the Libertarian voter base nationwide is estimated at around 500,000 people, which at first blush sounds like a lot. Donald Trump's voter base is 100 times larger than that, and he lost. You have to win if this is the new threshold for elections. Donald Trump got somewhere around 71, 72 million votes and lost the electoral college. Joe Biden got something around 77, 78 million votes. If in a very hard fought three-way race, that would mean that you would need to get roughly 50 something million votes to be able to win. That means we have to grow, and you need to start with at least half of that as a voter base. So that means that we need to grow our voter base to being at least 50 times what it is now. And when you say it that way, it actually sounds less daunting than what we just went through, right? Like, it actually sounds like an attainable thing. Like, if we can grow our voter base by 50-fold, then that's the magic of being able to win. But we have to actually do that. And and we have to be focused on doing that. And so, when I was running, it was always with the idea of, I want to talk to people about what would happen when or if a libertarian got elected, what that would look like. Not just me say the torch of liberty and use catchphrases about ending the Fed, but actually, what would that look like? We've gotten so conditioned to the idea of things just progressively getting worse, right? The cost of living is progressively going to go up. The burden that's placed on us by government is going to progressively increase. The amount of infringements upon our everyday life is going to just progressively go up. And so that's what lends to us saying things like lesser evil. Well, I know it's going to go up and it's going to get worse, but I'm going to vote for the one who I think is going to do less of it. I know that the cost of living is going to go up, and I'm going to go for the one who's going to maybe not do it quite as bad as the other one. If we can get people hopeful, and if we can get them behind an idea that we don't have to live this way, we could actually have things get better, be freer next year than we are this year, have the cost of living be lower than it is right now, because getting rid of bad monetary and economic policies that are skyrocketing the cost of living, that, we could fix these problems, that we could have fewer people in jails and prisons, that we could have fewer people in internment camps, preferably none, that we'd have fewer people coming back with PTSD because we've ended the wars, that we'd have fewer people being rounded up on the war on guns and the war on drugs and the war on livelihood and income. We can end these things, but that it takes winning, that it takes actually getting libertarian ideas into the cultural conversation. And that was my main goal. And I think with that metric, I think that I did pretty well with that. And moving forward, the goal is to take all that excitement and all that momentum and channel it into the next thing.
Yeah. Actually, I heard there was a guy that I spoke to a couple of years ago. I forgot who it was. I'd have to look it up. But outside of the voting base of 500,000, apparently there's upwards of maybe 30 million people who would possibly vote Libertarian.
Hmm?
But
depending, and that's yes. So that, which is why we need a built-in voter base. We need a built-in group of people who are like, I don't care who wins the election unless it's a Libertarian. I'm voting Libertarian, and I don't care. When I say voter base, I mean I could show up and be like a terrible candidate and be like, hey, thanks for giving me the nomination. I'm gonna go home and not do anything and not talk to anyone. And that 500,000 people would be like, whatever, I'm still voting for him.
You're voting for him anyway.
I'm voting for him anyway because I know his policies are good, and I'm voting Libertarian. I don't care. That's like a voter base. Like there's nothing you can do to alienate them, right? Donald Trump has like 25 to 40 million people, depending on who you ask, who it doesn't matter what he does.
Yes.
They're going to vote for him. Like he doesn't have to he could literally show up and be like, I hate all of you. You're all a bunch of morons. Vote for me anyway. And then never go outside.
About that?
Yes. That, like,
what was it? The whole, like, what was it? They told them like, okay, you have to go up there and say, what was it? They told like the Hillary Clinton parody. You have to go up there and say your opponent is a liar and don't trust anything he says. And then Mr. Garrison, who's playing Trump, goes up there and goes, don't vote for me. I have no idea what I'm doing. And she's like, my opponent is a liar. Don't trust anything he says. And everyone's like,
but I mean, to that point, it happens on both sides as well. Because I think when Nancy Pelosi came out speaking about this, there are parts of the Democratic demographics. You just put a D on it, and it's going to win. So
this is the reality of and this is partisan politics in general. In the UK, the Conservatives
and the Labour,
the Tories, the Labour and Lib Dems have and the Greens have built-in voter bases. They have built-in people that are like, I don't care who's running in my riding. I'm voting for them, period. Doesn't matter.
Correct.
I'm voting for them because they have that letter next to their name. And, this is how partisan politics works. And it sucks and it's terrible, but it's the reality of partisan party politics. We need to grow our voter base and grow them into, and not to use them so that we can treat them that way, but to grow them into people that are always ready to vote for us and to be activists for us, because that voter base is typically the activist base as well. They're the people that are going to show up and do the hard work and do more work. The more of an exciting and principled and engaging candidate you have, the more you're going to get out of them. So we need to focus on that. We need to focus on growing that base. Going into 2022 and 2024 and future elections, we need candidates, especially at the top of the ticket, who excite the people that they're put in front of. We need candidates who already demonstrated during the nomination contest that they can build a team around them. Okay, have an actual marketing team, have an actual outreach team, have a delegate strategy. These are things that just having the lowest negatives isn't enough, because you're going to now thrust this person into a general election campaign against two parties that receive hundreds of millions of dollars in crony corporate funding, hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding, and tens of billions of dollars in earned media or unearned media, however you look at it.
Yeah.
You need to be able to show that you can build an actual team around you and lead that team before you can be taken seriously. So we need, those are the two biggest things to me. And then, yes, they need to obviously be principled libertarians, because one thing we proved in this election, we were told, well, the only way we're ever going to do well is, at all, and well by our standards, is to run candidates who aren't all that libertarian, but they're well known, outside of liberty circles. And so Gary Johnson was that. Gary's libertarian on a lot of stuff, but on a lot of other stuff he's not. But people know him.
Yes,
we did better than Gary did in his first run. So we've kind of, at the very least, we won that argument and got almost like twice as many votes as he did. So in his first run. So that lends itself to the idea that no, we can run principled libertarian candidates. But the important thing is we need to stop hoping that we can get on the debate stage and stop hoping that they'll give us some, additional time or some additional interviews or whatever. We have to build our own thing and bring so much excitement, so much momentum to the table that they have to cover it because it's newsworthy, because it's something that if they didn't cover it, their competing media outlets would cover it and they'll go, oh, I guess we got to cover it too. That we make it on the debate stage, not because we're petitioning and it was amazing watching all these people demanding to the CPD that they let us in the debates. But we need to grow a movement that's so big and so unable to be ignored that we make it onto the debate stage because we're polling at 15, 20%. There's nothing they can do to ignore that. So it's just, and it's the excitement that I saw and the dedication that I saw from everyday activists across this country. We just need to grow those ranks, because if we keep that excitement and just grow the number of people that are in it, there's nothing that can stop us. And it doesn't need to be in 20 years we can win governor, and then in 40 years we can win it can happen by the next election cycle, but we have to grow the movement and we have to actually bring more people into it and create an exciting message. We also need message discipline. We need to look at the things that voters care about and hyper focus on those things instead of trying to say what we think they should hear. And those are the three things that I think were the biggest lessons I learned from this campaign.
Would you say that the party as a whole is kind of on board with that, or are they just kind of content to business as usual? Like they're really not looking to do a lot of that grassroots sort of stuff?
I think there are two groups of people. Both of which are agreeable to these ideas. One group are the people who, and they tend to be the ones that have been in the party a while, they're okay where we are. They're not happy about it, but they're okay with it. And, they're the ones that have congratulated me on getting 1.2% because this was a uniquely difficult year for third-party candidates. And this is the first time that the LP has gotten third place in all 50 states, which means that, it just spoke to the fact that this was a difficult year. And, and that, during all incumbent years, third parties do worse. We're an incumbents trying to get reelected in the White House. The third parties always do worse. And, we had with this COVID, it was with the lockdowns, there was even more of a weighting towards, or a disadvantage for those who couldn't afford to put hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising out there and, and all these different things. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's true. But we need to grow this movement to not being reliant on factors that we have no control over. So there's that group of people who still, if we say, hey, but here's a plan to win, they go, okay, that sounds good. Let's do that. Then there's another group of people. These are the ones that typically are newer to the movement that are like, no, this is unacceptable. I never want to get single digits again. I want to at least be making a serious contention at the top of the ticket. And we also want to be winning, in Congress, in the Senate, in governor's races, in state legislative offices, and in local races. I want the Libertarian Party to be the ascendant and increasingly dominant party, and our ideas to win. I want the things that we talk about to actually happen. And there's this, I notice a lot of people that have been in this movement for a long time who will say, you really got to dial down your expectations. And I'm over here saying, no. You don't need to dial down your expectations. You need to dial up the understanding of what we need to be able to do that. I want us to have those expectations, but I want us to realize what it takes to do that. And then I want us to work together to do those things. None of this is impossible. We are not talking about time travel. We are not talking about something that we don't know how to do. There are feasible and concrete ways to do this. The reason I'm doing Culture Winning, first shameless plug of this episode, 40 minutes in, of a Culture Winning that I'm doing on my social media on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 Eastern. I am interviewing libertarians who have been elected and reelected to their offices to talk to them about how they did that. Libertarians winning elections are not a myth. And we need to end that culture of, well, that libertarian did great. He got 4%. No, there are libertarians that won. There are libertarians that won and keep winning their races. And they and we are, 3 episodes in, we are seeing a very strict or not strict, but a very concise pattern as to how they did this. It is replicable. We can do this across the country, and we can build this into something where we can win any election. But we have to actually do the thing. So don't dial down your expectations, dial up what needs to be done to be able to do it. So to answer your question, the vast majority of people do want to do this. Some are ready to do it right now, and some, want to hear how it's going to happen and then are okay with it.
The big thing that I've been seeing is when I'm having conversations with people that I know about regarding this, they kind of go, well, I mean, you get because they'll only hear, oh, I was involved with the presidential campaign. Go, well, what about your local races and such? You guys doing anything there?
Yeah.
And that's, I hear that across the board, and I go, oh yeah, and I was still telling them a few here in Minnesota. It's Kara Scholes in the city council of Burnsville. And I'm just talking about, I'll just name a few. There's this one guy over here and over there, and then they'll go, oh, I didn't know about that. I'm like, it's a 2-pronged effort. So we're always going to shoot for the top, but we also have people plenty that are in their own areas that are also shooting for local positions. And what I found was really interesting is you'll find, compared to the Democrats and Republicans, because Democrats and Republicans usually have candidates that are kind of I don't know, they tend to have to be in the party in a certain way.
Right.
There's a relationship. There's almost a rite of passage where they're kind of moving up it through the rungs to higher positions. Some of these people don't really whereas with libertarians, it's just anyone that has any real desire anywhere will just go for a position, and they're more likely to look for positions that are easier to win too. You'll have some positions,
which is good. Yeah.
Right. You'll have positions. I think your bus tour manager, Anthony, he ran for something in Washington.
He ran for Washington State Insurance Commissioner. And he got more votes as a libertarian than anyone before him has gotten. The reason he was able to do this was because he looked at the most unsexy race in Washington state politics. He looked for a statewide race that was not sexy, that no one was trying to use as their, ladder to work their way up party politics for the Republicans or Democrats, but was also a very, very important position and was being held by someone who was not very popular and not very well known and not doing that good of a job. And so he was able to get I think 12%. And he did this on the most threadbare budget I've ever heard of. He spent thousands of dollars and was living in a camper traveling around the state doing this. Anthony Welty, with an actual structure around him, a campaign apparatus around him, and the kind of funding he would have needed to put his name out there on a major scale, could have won that election. And there are many other Anthony Weltys across the country. Donald Rainwater in Indiana, Ricky Harrington in Arkansas, Brad Barron in Kentucky. There are many other libertarians across the country who did very well and could have done even better. Chris Cleveter in Burnsville, he came really close to winning, and I think
no
he'll
one
win
like that mayor,
because no one liked that mayor, right? So, but the point is that we need more people, and this is all very, these are prosaic things I'm saying. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking here, but it needs to be said because often people go, I just don't know how we're going to win. I do. More people who bring in more excitement, who do more activism and raise more funds. That's literally what it will take. Politics is not difficult once we get outside of trying to look for the cheat code. There is no cheat code. Unless you're a Republican or Democrat, the cheat code is that you get to pass laws to make it harder for everyone else. For us, we just have to do the work. And the work is there to be done. And there are people out there that, I went to rural neighborhoods, I went to suburban neighborhoods, I went to urban neighborhoods, I went to roughly 100% white neighborhoods, I went to roughly 100% black neighborhoods, I went to roughly 100% Hispanic neighborhoods, and every other mix in between. Our message resonates with everyone when you present it in a way that they understand, when we present it to normies, instead of just talking about our philosophical ideas. Yeah, well, and end the Fed works after you explain why we need to end the Fed. Because if you say end the Fed, they're like, what's the Fed? And you go, you statist bootlicker, we have to end the Fed. Hey, thanks for insulting me, and I still don't know what it means. You have to actually explain to someone, hey, imagine if your money was worth 50 times what it is right now. Well, it would be if the Federal Reserve hadn't been doing all these things for the last 100 and some odd years. These are the conversations you can have, but you have to connect with people on what they care about. You have to go into their neighborhoods and connect with them on the things that they care about. And that's what we did. So in a lot of ways, we created the template for how to grow the movement and how everyday people can do, to some extent, what I did. Not with a bus and everything else, but go into your neighborhoods. Go talk to every single stop. You were at a couple of my stops. And what did I do? I had the down ballot candidates there. Mm-hmm. I talked with them extensively about what they can do to replicate what we were doing in that event, reaching out to local community groups in their area, going to where they are, listening to what they have to say, engaging the local community, doing the things that people like Kara and Kalish Morrow and Bob Carwin and others who got elected across the country were able to do. Show the community. Don't let the first time anyone heard of you be when they might see your sign or see your name on the ballot. You're going to lose. Have the first time that they've heard of you be when you were doing something in the community. Make yourself a name in the community so that people go, oh, Amos Joseph. Yeah, no, I know him. He's awesome. Yeah, no, I'd consider voting for him because he did.
He's friends with Spike.
He's friends with
Exactly.
I mean, just to kind of knock on that a little bit, I have to say Donald Trump in a lot of ways also broke the political mold, and he's not exactly he's not exactly a friend of the Republicans. In fact, he kind of smashed through a lot of that. So I mean,
but why was he able to do that?
Well, yeah, because of the name recognition,
exactly,
a clear message that resonated. So I'm agreeing with all of your points.
Yeah. Everyone knew who he was. Yeah.
Exactly, and he was not obviously, even to this day, he's not exactly liked by a lot of the establishment, and we don't even know what the full extent of this election is going to be with everything that's going on.
Oh yeah.
But I completely agree with you in terms of get out there, get known, relate to people, just connect with people.
Yep.
I know for us in the UK, you see the politicians come around election time a couple weeks before. Yep. They knock on your door. Hi, how you doing? Then you never see them again for like 4 years.
Exactly.
Don't be that person. Don't be that person.
Don't be that person. Because if you get elected,
yes,
be that person in what you're doing in that race where you are, in that position that you got, but stay connected with the community. Yes. I had a lot of people that I had to have very difficult conversations with. They'd say, I'd like to run for office, local office. I go, cool, what's the office? And they tell me whatever it is. And I'd say, okay, what in your engaging with the community, what have you heard that they care about? And they'd say, I don't really like people. I just want them to know that, this new tax is bad. And I'm like, okay, but there are ways to do that without running for office. And, that there are ways to do that without running for office. Correct. And I'm like,
start a blog.
I started a blog, a podcast, go to your city council meetings.
Yeah.
I mean, there are all sorts of things you could do. And so I talked to a lot of people outside of running for office.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I'd say, so, I would encourage you to do those things. And they're like, yeah, but I just want to run so that if anyone asks me why I'm running, I'll say this. And I'll say, okay, are you going to knock on doors? Are you going to do sign waving? Are you going to do petition signing? Are you going to go to any events? Because if not, no one's going to ask you. Exactly. The media is not going to come for you, especially not, in these times where the media is trying to limit their interactions with people anyway.
They're practically hostile to people.
They're like, if you're not an established name, they don't want to talk to you. And
even if you are, they don't want to talk to you.
They don't want to talk to anyone. They just want to get home safe. And so, in this environment, no one's going to hear of you. They're going to show up. They're going to look at the ballot. They're going to go, Bill Smith is out. And the only education that they will have received from that is that L stands for person who doesn't win, stands for losing. And if you're running for a nonpartisan office, they don't even know, they don't even see an L. They just see your name and they go, I don't know who that is. I'm voting for this person whose signs I've seen everywhere and who I've knocked on my door and who's been on the TV and everything. So I would much rather someone who wants to, do those things, go work for someone else's campaign who has that infrastructure put together. Go
learn the way.
Go learn the way. Go to your city council and county council meetings, or your whatever they're called in your area meetings, and go and present what you want to talk about. There are people there who also want to talk about things, who are engaged enough to be at that meeting. Go talk to them. Like, there are things that you can do. Running for office is a good thing that you can do if you want to actually try to win that election. Yes. And so, and that's a very key thing. So, these were things I already knew before this election, but actually going out, I saw the difference every day with down ballot candidates, the difference between the ones who were there to win, and some of them did win, and the ones who were there because no one else was running for it, and they thought it would be a good way to get to talk about how, whatever thing that they were against was bad, or whatever thing they wanted was good. And I totally get that desire to do that, but they needed to do the work beforehand to be able to do that. And that was the takeaway I got, is that we need to find candidates who can win these races, especially the local races. Get the Libertarian brand out there, bring people into the movement, use I guess personalities, figures like myself and others who are I've been told good at spreading the message of liberty. Go put them out into the public. Do public facing stuff with them to be able to bring people into the movement. Evangelize libertarianism to normies, and we can do this. We can win things, but we have to do the work.
One thing that I'll say, because you were saying some people say you're better at spreading the message. I'll just say this: at the election night party, I think you were the first person that gave the speech. Out of all the people that, part of the campaign that were giving speeches, you went up there, you gave your speech, no notes, nothing, just you, the microphone.
I never have notes.
Yeah, you went up there with the microphone, and if that party had not been going on, that whole room would have gone with you to go out and do whatever.
Right.
We're gonna go knock on doors just cause. Oh, okay. They'll that's how pumped up you got the whole room going.
We're going cow tipping, or let's do it.
We were in Texas. Perfect.
I know, in Texas, yeah. Exactly.
Hey everyone, I heard about cow tipping. Let's try that out. Yes, cow tipping.
But that was the thing, was you did that, and no one else that spoke for the rest of the night even came close to that. And that's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the fact that it's what it says to a lot of people who are there, because a lot of people who are important, or know the important people kind of within the movement, within the party, they have the access to a lot of different people, are going to see that and use that to kind of take to hey, how can we get someone who's this excited, who can get a room this much going, going this much,
right,
where we are in our elections, in our states, in our areas, versus the other approach where people might be thinking, having some sort of other feelings about you. Because it's such a new thing, I think, at least for me, is to see someone that actually addresses issues and talks about liberty in a way that I actually can really
makes people want to vote for us.
Because
and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah.
For those of us who who are, we'll just say more into the ideas and the thinking. Yeah. Well, if we hear things and the Fed, we just get that. Right. Whereas if you say that to the common person who you want to try to attract to liberty, they're just and that was a big thing, was you were preaching a message, really, and I'm saying preaching, but you're preaching a message that basically people can relate to. Instead of saying we need to, remove regulations on, let's say, the healthcare industry, and just leave it at that, and then just be because government shouldn't be involved in this. And people go, well, why do I care about that? And then you lay it out in a way, okay, by removing it, it actually increases competition, which can give you better prices. It can give you better plans. It forces them to be in a position to actually meet halfway to you, instead of you having to make that huge leap to meet halfway with them and their ridiculous demands that they can get away with because of government regulation. All those things.
And start with the story, because a lot of people you're going to lose them. Even saying it that way, you'll get a lot more people that way than saying, well, because government has no right and it's unconstitutional, whatever. Like, most people do not care about that. No one is sitting in a hospital room worried about like their bill and thinking, man, I hope that whatever way that this could pay for this is constitutional. Like, they don't care. Like, it's not,
Exactly.
It does not connect with them. And they are not, most people are not as intellect
Academic.
first, right?
Yeah.
So everyone connects whenever anyone is presented with information. Everyone responds to it with some combination of intellect, how we are processing this and applying it to our philosophy and our ethos and our belief systems and values and all that stuff. Intuition, just a general gut feeling of whether they believe this or not, or how they feel about it. And then emotion, like how it makes them feel. And this isn't like a static thing where we all applied the same exact amount of intellect and intuition and emotion on everything. Sometimes it's different day to day. Sometimes it's different subject to subject. You want to get a emotion heavy reaction from a libertarian. Ask them, what about the roads? Ask them, who's going to pay for ask them why healthcare, why we can't be like other wealthy countries and have healthcare. You're not going to get an intellectual response to that. You're going to get a very emotional one. And so what I've learned is that when you connect with people with a story, or with riffing off of what they just said to you and extrapolating that into how the policies that are in place have led to that bad outcome, or how better policies would lead to better outcomes. Mm-hmm. You're bypassing all of that, because it doesn't matter how they processed what level of intellect or emotion or intuition they applied to it. You are talking to them the way they talk to you. The other magical thing there that happens is, and this is an old sales technique, try your best. And obviously in a political rally situation, you as the candidate are going to be doing most of the talking, but try to let them talk as much as possible. That's why I did my Q&As. One of the oldest sales techniques is letting the prospective client talk more than you, because subconsciously, whoever's talking more thinks that they're the one controlling the conversation. So if it ends in the idea that you should buy this thing, then they're much more likely to subconsciously think, this was my idea. Yeah. Even if consciously they realize you're the one that said it to them, if they're the one that did most of the talking and you went, yes, that's true, that's why you need this. And that's, absolutely. We have to, and reflecting back and then when you're talking, you're reflecting back what they said, which means even what you're saying is what they said. Subconsciously, that lizard part of their brain is going, this is my idea. Yes. And it makes them much more agreeable to it. And this is the kind of stuff that I did. This is just basic, marketing 101 type stuff, where I'd go out into these things. I'd give 5-8 minute long speech. Short speech, get everyone excited, say all the stuff that makes libertarians excited, and say the stuff that makes just general people think that you care about them. Talk about how very powerful people are controlling everything, and we want to dismantle that and take back the power. Real vague stuff, right? I'm not pulling out a chalkboard and showing them, charts
like
and stuff like that.
Cohen debunked thing or something. I'm just,
Like
what really
Cohen destroyed, drop a truth bomb. Like, I'm just real basic stuff to connect with people. And then what would happen? You saw it. People would show up and they're like, okay, but our community needs this. What are you going to do for that? And instead of us going, we're not going to do a damn thing. The government doesn't owe you anything. That's not what they're asking. What they're asking is, I need this thing. How's that going to happen? They've been conditioned that the way to ask that is, what are you going to give me? But what they're asking is, how am I going to get this thing that I need? How are my kids going to get the education they need? How am I going to be able to afford healthcare? How is this going to be able to happen? How's that going to be able to happen? How can our neighborhoods be safer? They've been conditioned to ask it like, well, you're running for this office. What are you going to give me? And we as libertarians have been conditioned to say, I'm not giving you anything. I'm going to leave you alone. We're taking over the world to leave you alone, which sounds like I don't give a shit about you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so instead I would say, in Oakland, there was someone who said, what programs do you have for our community to be able to teach our children to be? And I would say, listen, I don't know how many billions of dollars have been taken from your community and given to big government agencies in Washington, D.C. This was in Oakland, California. So I said, thousands of miles away, to be implemented by people who don't care about you at best and who don't like you and are apathetic to your concerns at worst. But I know it's in the billions. And I know it's in the hundreds of billions across the country, where neighborhoods such as yours, poor Black neighborhoods, have been robbed of hundreds of billions of dollars to be given to a federal government that has imposed a standardized testing system that their own administrators say disproportionately harms your communities. And they do it anyway because you don't have any political power, and they know that they either have your vote or they don't have your vote, and they don't really care that much about it. Imagine if instead your education system was decided by you, and you had all that money that was stolen from you back in your hands for you and the teachers and the administrators of your schools to decide what your schools look like, to decide what your schools are teaching, to decide, what needs to be able to happen. Instead of you being segregated into a bad district because of your zip code and told, sorry, your kid has to go to this terrible school unless you're able to move into that richer, whiter neighborhood over there, which you can't afford to do. So you're just stuck here, and your kid's more likely to go to prison than to graduating from college. All that ends when you have your money back. I was able to answer someone who was asking me what government program libertarians were going to do, and that person became a member of the party and took a bunch of yard signs. This is how you connect with people every day. And the way that you do it is by listening to what they're saying and reflecting back that you heard what their concern is, because 99% of their time, the concern is very, very valid. Our ideas, we are better than the left on the things the left cares about. We are better than the right on the things the right cares about. For that matter, we're better than centrists on the things they care about. There's no need to argue with them. There's no reason to browbeat them with our philosophy. Just listen to them and then tell them how our ideas will fix it.
Amen. We've got quite a following of people on the Facebook group, and a lot of them are like, yeah, Spike, preach, so obviously big fans.
No,
well, I am Amos's friend. So.
It comes with the territory.
So your thoughts now after the election, after the campaign, any thoughts or any possible plans? I'm not going to hold you to any plans, obviously, but if there's any possible plans from here on out.
Well, I think
that you're willing to share.
One thing that we learned is that moving forward, if I'm really going to be able to connect with people on a visceral level in my campaign events and be able to do it, I have to get tactical soap. It is for men and by men.
Advertising it for us.
It's filled with pheromones. Check out their new Bond collection, just came out.
Yes, we need more manly men using tactical soap.
Manly soap.
Yes.
No more of this womanly soap.
And you could use the code 10K Rum to help out the show.
Code, and of course, you use the code 10K Rum for free shipping.
So 10% off.
Yeah. 10% off. Sorry, 10% off. I apologize. In the future, like I said, so I'm not going to tiptoe around the question because I am routinely asked, are you running for president in 2024? And sometimes it's phrased in the form of, please run for president in 2024, or what role can I fill in your campaign team running for president in 2024? Here is some of my friends have asked that. Here is my answer to
one
that.
of them being me.
One of them possibly being you.
I
wasn't gonna out you like that, but okay. Here is my answer to that. I don't want to run for anything ever again that I go into it knowing that I don't even have a shot in hell of getting on the debate stage, much less winning. Okay? So my concern right now is to grow this movement into being a formidable force that is changing the cultural conversation, bringing people into our movement, getting them excited as activists, and winning elections across the country so that in 2024, 2028, 2032, every 4 years hence, whoever runs for our nomination has the support, the voter base, the excitement, the infrastructure, and the funding that they need to be able to win the election, to be able to get on the debate stage, to be able to have a snowball's chance in hell of even being able to contend the election seriously. That is my primary concern. And if that lends itself to my being the best person to run in 2024, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But it's not even what I'm worried about right now, because it doesn't matter if I'm running in 2024 if no one but us knows. It doesn't matter if Larry Sharp, Justin Amash, Vince Vaughn, Kurt Russell, Drew Carey,
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider. It doesn't matter. Russell. It doesn't matter who we put up. We could run Jorgensen Cohen 2024 again. It doesn't matter who we put up if we haven't done the work in the meantime to be able to actually be able to contend that election. And so I don't even care about 2024. I care about Natalie Bruno running for her special election in the state Senate in Oklahoma right now. I worry about trying to double party membership within the next couple of months. I worry about taking all that 100,000 people that are in the Facebook group for mine and Joe's campaign and getting at least half of them to join the party, which would more than double our membership overnight. Those are the things that I'm concerned about right now. And I'm not being obtuse or trying to avoid the question. I'm telling you that if it makes sense for me to run in 2024, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But that I don't even care about that right now. We have to grow this party into a movement. Low single digits should never be something to congratulate someone on.
Right.
I want us to get more than 5% and only be happy with it if we won the election. That's what I'm concerned about.
I mean, in light of everything, because your election is technically still going on. It is
the vote counting is.
Yeah, it's contested. There are a couple lawsuits and these other things.
I feel good that we're going to win the recount. I just want to say that.
Well, that's exactly what I want to get into. Is there were a lot of shady and kind of obscure things that happened in this election, and one of which has to do with the fact that it appeared that the Libertarian Party actually did not get. They would get a bunch of votes, and then suddenly a lot of those votes would disappear, and it's. Some kind of some strange things. I don't know if you noticed any of that.
I trust me. Not only did I notice them, but they have been brought to my attention a impressive number, almost as many times as the number of votes that we may have lost. And so we are tracking it. It appears, at least for now, particularly the big one was in Pennsylvania, where we lost like double the votes that we had, or something like that. Yeah,
votes or something out of
it appears as though that was just a Google error, that it had nothing to do with the actual results from the Pennsylvania Board of Elections or whoever's in charge of that. That it was a Google thing. And Google's not the one doing the count. They were just aggregating the information they were given. So we are tracking it. We are trying to see what it is, and to make sure that there wasn't anything, fraudulent or anything like that. But from what we can tell right now, it at least appears to have been that it was a Google error, which would be nothing to have to do with the election itself. But we are keeping, and there's a few of those. There's a few examples of that. I think Kentucky's another one. There's a few examples across the country, and we're tracking it. We are more than likely not going to try to push for a full on recount for two reasons. Number one, a lot of the areas that are in contention are already having recounts. And also it would be hard to prove standing. And we saw this in 2016 when Jill Stein was trying to push for elections across recounts, that she couldn't argue that it would result in a change of the outcome that would have to do with her. So what we would have to do in court is show that we had a reason to think that a change in the recount would result in us winning.
Correct.
So,
but I know to that point, again,
we are tracking it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there have been so many things that have kind of come out about the election and stuff. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because there hasn't been a lot of response from the Libertarian Party, even on the issue of even whatever side wins this thing, but about voter integrity and about, look, this process has to be transparent. It has to be at least appear transparent and open and honest. And I was kind of disappointed with that, because I thought all Americans, this is, kind of the fundamental right of the democracy. If it's looking shady and we're hearing some reports of, they're not letting watchers in and stuff like that, everybody should be speaking up about that.
Yeah, I agree. I know that. So one of the biggest concerns was related to the mail-in voting. Even with the anecdotal examples that have been brought in, the bigger problem is less how it might have changed the outcome, because historically voter fraud that has been proven contributes to anywhere from a 0.02% to a 0.05% change in the vote result, which was not enough to change anything, at least at the presidential level this time around. With that said, people seeing these anecdotes it derides and devalues the trust that people have in the system of voting, which lends itself to fewer people voting in the future. Correct. Because if people think their vote isn't even going to be counted correctly, or it's going to be stuffed or switched to someone else or something like that, people are less likely to vote in the first place. So if for no other reason than to prevent that, they need to be aggressive with finding examples of voter disenfranchisement, voter, vote fraud, vote tampering and things like that, and stomp it out, even if it is only 0.2%, 0.02%, because the average person looking at this is like, they're finding vans full of votes. They're all, and they go, well, then I guess my vote doesn't count. And that is far more deleterious to the system than what the actual count change probably is. So no, we absolutely need to be aggressive in this. And the people who are saying, this is every election cycle, the same people who right now are saying, well, it's all done and dusted, and we need to not look into it any further. The will of the people has been set. If it were not decided in their favor, they would be the exact people saying we need to check every single last vote and make sure that everything is on the up and up. So in the same way that the evening of election day, I had people attacking me and Joe for robbing the election from Joe Biden, were the same people who turned around and thanked us for robbing the election from Donald Trump, as though our vote, which means they don't understand how voting works, because in order for that to be the case, it would have meant that all of our voters would have voted for Biden up until Biden took the lead, and then suddenly all of our voters would have actually voted for Trump.
Yeah,
it means they don't understand how it works. But all that to say that a lot of this is just hypocrisy. The people who are upset right now would not be upset if their guy won, and the people who aren't upset right now would be upset if their guy didn't win. So,
and Hillary Clinton is on record telling Joe Biden, if he did lose, not to concede. So you're absolutely right. If the results were different,
oh yeah, no, they would listen. If this had been if this had gone the other way,
yes.
All the people right now who are saying, stop the steal and everything, that would be the ones saying, the will of the people have spoken. And all the people saying the will of the people has spoken would be the ones out on the streets
screaming, stop the steal.
Stop the steal. It is. And the fact that the two candidates are almost identical in actual policy is a whole other level of irony. But yes, I mean, a lot of it's just partisan hypocrisy and conditioning from your media. A lot of people just go based on what their preferred media tells them, right? So if they're in the right-leaning media sphere, they're taking their cues from that. If they're in the left-leaning media sphere, they're taking their cues from that, because most people aren't really dialed in as much, because they're like just trying to make ends meet and live their lives. And so they tune in long enough to get an idea of what they should think and go, oh, okay, yeah, this election was stolen. Or other people go, oh, okay, the will of the people has spoken, and everyone needs to stop whining about it. And if it were the other way around, they'd be saying the opposite.
Yeah. So if you think about it, if Trump and Biden both were somehow convinced to concede, Joe Jorgensen wins.
Does Joe Jorgensen get in?
if we do this, we get them to watch each other's preferred news outlets. If Joe Biden comes out, these two, and I mean, Joe Biden, he's not always fully there. He could come out and go, this election was stolen from us, and it's a travesty. But we can't fight it any further. And then Donald Trump comes out and says what he's saying right now. This election was stolen. And from me, and then we could come out and say, well, we accept
their concessions.
We accept their concession. The will of the people have spoken. We'll see you we'll see you December 13th when the electors officially make this real, and then we'll see you on January 20th when we swear in. I like this idea.
There's a chance.
It is as solid a strategy as any other that we have right now to win this election.
There is a chance. I mean, and we know, like, even if all of the elections and the counts and everything, you do have, it could go back to the House, isn't that right? If neither side gets the 270.
Yeah.
That was the Johnson angle, was the 269 tie.
The 269. That was the strategy.
And that was, so that's Larry's strategy too. Larry Sharp wanted to
Larry
do that with Jim Gray. His strategy was win a state that, forces them neither side to get 270. and then which in his defense, that would get us a ton of attention.
Oh, hell yeah.
At the Libertarian Party. There'd be a lot of death threats, but we would get a lot of attention to that. But
Streisand effect.
Would that lead? Yes, exactly. Would that lead to a bunch of Republican and Democrat electors saying, "Okay, let's go with the Libertarian then"? No, but
probably not. But it's a good idea.
Probably not. But hey, it would get us attention. I'm not against the win a single state strategy. Unfortunately, because of the reality of ballot access laws, we have to run in all 50 states.
All 50 states.
Because we have to get a certain percentage to be able to make it onto the ballot for the next election. So we can't just run a presidential election in like Utah,
right,
or Nebraska or something like that. We have to run it across the country.
Right.
But if and again, this is where we get into these like, what if we do this one simple trick and then it wins us the election? We need to get more people into all of these things lend themselves to all these things, even these like, special ideas we have of how to win the election without any
so nice way to say it.
With like 90% of people not knowing who we are. Even all of those require us to have more people in the movement, require us to be more involved in the conversation, require us to have a bigger party, require us to have more funds. So all of that lends itself to we need more people, we need more money, we need more activism, we need more of all the things that we need to be able to contend serious elections across the country. So sure, if someone wants to put all their focus on winning New Hampshire or Nebraska or something like that, great. That's what you can focus on. If someone wants to put it all into social media stuff, great. That's good too. Like whatever speaks to someone's heart as to where they think they're best used, great. Go do it.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? So right now with the election sort of being contested and there's a lot of this failing faith in just the integrity of an election with the ballots and all this.
Yeah.
Do you think that has any effects that can ripple through the entire country to be very, let's just say, threaten certain types of stability?
He's talking about civil war. He doesn't want to say it. He's talking about civil war. I'm in the UK. I could say it.
Can it in theory? Yes. Do I think that it's going to? I don't. I think
especially with the lockdowns and everything really raising tension.
This is actually more
of a concern.
What will lead to the tension than that. Okay? I will always say that the murder of George Floyd would have triggered protests and riots and all of that. I will always say that the lockdowns having everyone on edge and the pandemic having everyone on edge led to that being even bigger powder keg than it would have previously been. And as these lockdowns continue, and as people's situations get more and more desperate, not just from how am I going to be able to provide for my family? How am I going to be able to make ends meet? How am I going to be able to, get treatment for my addiction or my depression or my, non-COVID related issues that apparently don't exist anymore? How am I going to be able to do this? Just the social impact on social isolation is a huge factor that no one's talking about here. And you now have an increasing number of states that are telling you can't even visit your family on Thanksgiving. There was a tweet, and this is in Australia, but anyone who thinks it's not coming here, who would have believed me if I'd said all the stuff that they're saying now, a year ago that this would be happening? No one would believe me. In Australia, they're telling people in South Australian police, or South Australian something. I don't know how their government split up, but it was the SA something, South Australia something, was putting out on Twitter, no, you can't go outside to exercise or walk your dog.
I saw that, yeah.
That's going to put people on edge, especially when it's not. It's one thing to say, okay, you can't do this for the next 10 days. They're still going to be on edge. People are still going to be losing it. Libertarians are still going to be saying absolutely not. But there's at least an end date. There's no end date for this. And we already have the CDC saying that even after there's a vaccine and everyone's been vaccinated, everyone still needs to socially distance and wear masks.
Someone was saying until the end of next year.
2021.
No one knows when this will end.
Yeah.
And the fact that the pop culture media apparatus that is owned by a handful of crony corporations is pushing the narrative that if you don't wear masks and socially isolate until further notice, then you're a scumbag who wants everyone to die, unless you're going to a Biden victory rally, or you're a politician going to a
or a mostly peaceful protest.
Yeah, or you're a politician that's doing whatever the hell you want,
or whatever.
whatever you want. They're pushing something that isn't 2 weeks or 2 months. This is how we live now. And we need to resist this for a myriad of reasons. And one of them is, you want to make a giant powder keg that's going to explode in everyone's faces? Tell a largely armed 300 plus million group of people that they can't do anything ever again if it's not on Zoom.
The thing I'm really, because I've talked to people, because I'm, and people will call me a bootlicker for this, but I can at least understand like mask wearing and social distancing and limiting capacities of certain businesses to a degree. Exactly.
Fucking statist.
Exactly. How does it taste, bootlicker? No.
And I'll say like, that I can understand, but now to the degree. So with Minnesota, with Minnesota to the degree that like you've seen it, you tweeted about it.
Oh yeah.
It is technically so I live in an apartment. Right across the hall is my neighbor. If I go hang out with him, it is now illegal.
$1,000 fine.
As of 14 and a half hours ago, it is illegal for me to go over there.
Which, by the way, means everyone's going to be breaking the law. This is another aspect of the fact. So every time that they pass this kind of petty tyranny stuff, the war on drugs is another example of this. Everyone I know has gotten high at some point. Okay, when you make it so that the vast majority of people are lawbreakers in their everyday interactions, two things happen. Number one, they become desensitized to the idea that they should follow the law. And number two, they become desensitized to the idea that government should even have any kind of authority. All government power is illusory. It does not exist. Government power is not a real thing. There is what those who are in a position of enforcement are willing to enforce and able to enforce. And there is what the general populace is willing to have burdened upon them, which is why they apply that slow progressive approach instead of just hitting you with big stuff. Yeah, they use that the frog in the boiling water. You slowly drive it up because you're increasing people's tolerance to it happening. This is happening way too fast. And what's happening is as more and more people are like, I'm still going to visit my neighbor, even if they're still then going on social media and virtue signaling about if you guys groups of greater than 10, you hate my grandmother. They'll still go in. Well, I can visit with Bill and Shirley. Bill and Shirley are safe. I'm safe. We can talk. This is the kind of stuff that erodes the idea that it leads to greater. It erodes the idea that government has any real power or should be telling us what to do. It erodes the idea that we should be listening to them at all, or at least that I should be listening to them at all. Even if I still want to be a hall monitor to everyone else, in my head, I'm going, well, I don't have to listen to that. And most importantly, it grows the rift between the government and its enforcement mechanism, the police, and the public, which means it will lead to more and worse interactions between police and the general public. All of this is conducive to a slow and meticulous breakdown of civil society, especially when you couple it with massive increases in poverty, massive increases in shortages of basic needs because of a supply chain breakdown, massive increases in anxiety due to social isolation, massive increases in deaths from other diseases like untreated cancer and untreated depression, massive increases in suicide, massive increases in all the social ills that come from economic destitution, massive increases in generational poverty and child malnourishment. All of these things lend itself to a public that increasingly is like, no, I'm not going to do anything that you say. And if you try to stop me, I'm increasingly desperate and don't care what happens. This is not good.
And this is why we need a national supply chain commander, right?
Oh, God. Yes. This is why we need the government to tell truckers to put stuff on their truck. Like, anyone who is pushing this national supply chain thing needs to talk to one single trucker or one single logistics manager, the person that handles what goes on what truck and where that truck goes on, anyone in the supply chain, anyone working in a factory, anyone who was involved in literally any aspect of taking things out of the ground, making them into stuff, and then putting it on a shelf for you to buy. Anyone involved in that process in the supply chain can tell you how government has made it uniquely difficult for them to do their job, and why putting them in charge of the whole thing is the last thing you want to do. There are no truckers for this program. I guarantee you.
I mean, we're talking about the extremities out here in the UK. An article came out today in the Daily Mail saying that hugging is going to be illegal in England.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the nonsense that we're dealing with.
I used to joke about this when people would say,
Me too.
I used to use it as a trolley problem example of how creating a black market makes things bad. So here's the example I'd give. Now I can give it as actually happening. People would say, well, we can't make sex work legal because if we did that, then there'd be more exploitation of children. I'd say, no, there'd be less of it for many reasons. One, law enforcement would be able to focus on sex exploitation instead of just anyone who's involved in the sex trade legally or sex trade consensually. Also, people that are in the sex trade would be able to would point out bad actors to law enforcement without fear.
Yes.
But the biggest reason, and this is true with the war on drugs as well, is that when you make something illegal, you make it that the only people providing that good or service are people who don't care what the law is, which means it's going to necessarily attract some of the people that we wouldn't want to do anything with.
Unscrupulous characters.
Unscrupulous people who are going to find the most, this is how fentanyl is in drugs and things like that. This wouldn't happen in an open and free market. And in the rare instances that it did, everyone would pounce on them and stop them from ever doing it again. The example I would give is if hugging were made illegal, you would only be able to get hugs from some really unscrupulous characters, which means they'd be kidnapping people to give out hugs all day. And there'd be people that would be talking about how they were in the hug pits and having to give hugs all day long. And if you made hugs illegal long enough, this is what's going to happen. And you'll have people 2 or 3 generations from now, unironically saying, we can't have hugs. You can't let people hug. Look what they're doing to the children in the hug pits. Like, this is what happens.
The hug pits.
The hug pits. This is what happens when you make a black market.
Correct.
And the people that are getting those hugs go, well, I feel bad for those kids in the hug pits, but I need a hug, man. I'm falling apart here. I just need some social interaction. This is what happens. And an increasing number of people associate criminality with just being able to get through life, which means you're taking away the whole deterrent factor of criminality in the first place. An increasing number of people are like, yeah, I like outlaws. During the height of some of the worst abuses that happened during the alcohol prohibition in the U.S., people were looking up to Al Capone. They were looking up to the gangsters and the rum runners, even though these people were brutal. They were killing people left and right. They were absolute savages. They were killing dozens of innocent people daily in gangland warfare, but people looked up to them because they're like, well, at least they're sticking it to the man.
Yeah,
because they were just so sick of being told what to do in every aspect of their lives when they weren't doing anything to hurt anyone, when they themselves weren't doing anything to hurt anyone. So they associated with these bad guys. Very similar dynamic to when, the U.S. military or any military is bombing people and they didn't do anything wrong. And so they start saying, well, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, say what you want about Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but at least they're fighting back. And so absent all of that, they would have never supported Al-Qaeda, it would have never existed because the CIA wouldn't have created them. but they wouldn't have supported, extremist religious groups. They would have never supported that. They're supporting it because they're the only ones that at least have the appearance of fighting back. So, I'm on a rant, but the whole point is that these are bad. Amos has now left because my rant was
Amos, we've lost him. We've lost him.
Amos.
No, I just had to.
He's just sick of my ranting. He says,
yeah.
I hate this. He's like, this is the last time I bring a friend onto my show.
I knew I shouldn't have given you a hug at the election night party.
This is why we can't have hugging. That and the
there we
hug.
go. It's coming.
It was just the whole elbow thing the entire campaign. And I was like, no, I'm giving you a hug if I'm not seeing you again.
Wait, I'm not seeing you again?
No.
You're breaking up?
Oh crap! No. You were like,
is this how we're ending the show?
No. You
Thanks
were
for
like,
coming on,
hey.
Spike. I'm never going to see you again.
No, you like. We were
I hope
having
you
this
like
talk
that
till
hug.
4 a.m, and he's like, if I don't see you again, he comes up, gives me an elbow. I'm like, no, I'm giving you a hug. Like,
Oh yeah. Because I didn't know if you were going to be there the following day, and I was like, hey, good to see you again, and you're like that. But here was my thing. When I was doing it, I'm going to do the mask wearer thing now. I did that to keep you safe, Amos.
There you go.
No, but it's actually true because I interacted relatively closely to a lot of people. Now I did all of the fastidious stuff that I've been doing as a germaphobe for years. I sanitize my hands regularly. I don't stand really close to people, especially when I'm, indoors. I try to keep at least a couple feet when we're talking. I try to, if someone gets real close, I'll tend to kind of look down and look away so that our faces aren't on each other. I would do terribly in Europe. I'm not the double kissing and all that stuff. I really stay out of people's faces. If I take photos with people, I kind of just hold my breath in while we did the photo and then kind of, exhale, like little stuff that I've learned along the way because I have MS. I don't want to get sick with anything. And I've been this way for years now that I've learned and it worked. I got regularly tested for COVID. I never got it, even though I interacted with a lot of people. But I interacted with a lot of people, and I could have been an asymptomatic spreader. So in general, I was just like, not only am I doing this for my own safety, but I'm also doing it just because probably about 15,000 people I was within 6 feet of. That's a lot of damn people to be within 6 feet of. More often than not without a mask, sometimes inside. So I was like, just in case I'm walking around, carrying this thing and not even realizing it, I was trying to be. And then, and the ones that I cared the most about were like, no, hug me. I want your face to touch my face. I'm like, all right, fine, our faces.
Take it like a man.
But the thing is, and this is the problem. This is an issue that, you will often face when you use tactical soap.
Exactly. It would solve that problem in a one.
when you are getting the pheromones, and the Durden collection just came out. You want to check that out. But when you're getting the pheromone from tactical soap, this is what happens. And you can't socially isolate and socially distance when you're using tactical soap filled with male pheromones. They're going to want to come up. Like, look, this is not a socially distanced product. This is not a socially distanced photo. Like, they're within 6 inches of each other. And there's definitely some viral exchange there. And, this is the reality of what it's like when you are a manly man that uses a manly soap. And of course, when you use the code 10K Rum, then you get 10% off.
We should have you on the show permanently, Spike. I mean, you're doing a better job than we are. Oh man, this is fantastic. How are we doing on time? I don't know how long we're supposed to have you for.
We're doing pretty good on time here. We're at about an hour and a half here.
Okay. Yeah.
Would you buy tactical soap, Spike?
Not only will I buy tactical soap, I'm the spokesman. Or what is that? I'm not only the spokesman, I'm a client.
Also a client.
I've never used tactical soap, but I would if tactical soap were to, I don't know, hire me as a spokesperson / advertiser to share
soap model.
The soap / soap model.
Yeah. There we go.
Look at the shine I have from being regularly tackled by my wife. And you too can be tackled by your wife or some other random human being that you'd like to have tackle you. And all you need is tactical soap. I would get paid by them for that.
All I did was just log on to their website and just click affiliate, and then they give me a code that I can make my own, and that's it. That's all it really is.
And it's tacticalsoap.com.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Grundike Soap Company, but it's tacticalsoap.com. I mean, I don't think we've had anyone buy it from us. So
yeah, we had what was our friend?
I think that's going to change. I think you're about to get a lot
with your help, Spike. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of buys now.
This is going to be the clip I cut out for like Instagram and other things. This is going to be for you advertising Tactical Soap on our behalf.
Cohen. Take it from former VP candidate Spike Cohen.
Doesn't get better than that.
Unpaid, unsolicited spokesperson for the Grondike Soap Company.
Man, we're having too much fun here. We could go. So I'm trying to think of anything else here.
But just briefly, Spike, you did mention your wife. How does she feel that now that the campaign is done, she's got her husband back? You know, has the home life changed in any capacity? Let's ask that.
Oh, from before the campaign, you mean? Or
yeah, now that the campaign is done, because last time you told us about how it was. Now everything's done. Is she proud of you? Is she giving you special treatment?
So. Am I getting special treatment? No, she's glad to have me back. And now keep in mind, she was with me most of the time.
Yes.
So even when the last episode we did, I was in Minnesota, and she was with me. She didn't always go to all the events, but she was typically with me. There were, I would say she missed about 6 weeks total, spread out over different times. But she was there for probably 80% of the campaign. And was an incredible. She wasn't just there as a support and as my wife, and everyone loves her. She's like the Jackie Onassis of the Libertarian Party. But she also was just a great support, you know, on back end stuff that was, you know, needed for me to be able to be a front facing candidate. So she was, and while she herself was front facing as well. So she was great. And yeah, it's nice to, like, you know, I said today when I was, you know, putting a shirt on, I said to Tasha, I was like, you know, remember when I had to put a suit on multiple times a day? And she's like, yeah, but isn't it? It's kind of just as easy as that. I'm like, no, I literally just put this shirt on, and I already had pants on. That's like, you know, putting on a suit different suits 3 times a day, with the garter stops and the tie and the whole thing. I reached a point. I was always one of those people that like would have to YouTube how to tie a tie, and like, because I was rusty, and it's like, oh yeah, and then you do this right. I now can tie a tie without a mirror.
Wow, good.
I can size up how long the tie. I've gone on a complete total rant from what you actually asked me, but I can now tie a tie and figure out what the length is going to be based on the ratio between where the fat part, bottom of the fat part sits on my rib cage, bottom of my rib cage, and where the bottom of the skinny part goes down my leg, because all ties are different lengths. Yes. And I'm able to do that. That's the only thing I have to look at, and then I can do the whole thing from there. That's how good I've got.
Cool.
So back to your actual question. Yeah, things have come back to somewhat of a level of normalcy. I mean, I'm certainly busier than I was before I got the nomination. We're also kind of, settling into the holidays, which is nice. It's a good time of year for that. We're hoping to get away to Barbados sometime the end of the year. So that'll be fun. And I'll get that beach time that I missed out on. And just in general, we're kind of settling back into what life looks like this time of year, with the caveat that I'm also like a major figurehead in the Libertarian Party, and I'm trying to become an active part of growing it into a Leviathan political movement. That aside, everything's the same.
Do you think you're going to be recognized in public?
I get recognized in public.
I mean, outside of events.
I get recognized in public.
That's really cool.
Now, it's not like I, like a paparazzi thing, like I get out of my car and it was like, Spike! Routinely, I will go out and someone will look at me. And again, I'm wearing a mask, but my mask is a Live Free porcupine. And so people are looking and they're like,
I know this guy.
What they're thinking is, and I know what they're doing, I think that might be Spike, and he's wearing a Libertarian thing. And when I get the look and I'll say, hi, I'm Spike Cohen, they're like, you're Spike Cohen. So that actually happens. If I go out and run errands all day long, usually at least one person will do that. Cool. So it's not like, I can't go out. Oh, please, the crowd. It's just let me live my life, please. It's nothing like that. It's actually a pretty cool thing when it happens. I'm sure if it were happening like where everywhere I went, it would start to be kind of wearing. But no, it is on the airports, without fail, someone would come up to me and be like, "Are you Spike Cohen?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Spike Cohen." Oh my gosh. And so that's pretty cool. I actually when I was flying one of the times, trying to think where we were going. We flew into Boston. I think it was when we were leaving North Carolina and going to Rhode Island, because we had to fly into Boston and then drive into Rhode Island. Anyway, it doesn't matter. On the plane, I'm talking with my body man, LaQuinn, and we're talking and whatever. And I'm kind of a goofy person. Like when I'm doing downtime, when I'm not doing campaigning, I'm like a big goof. And so we're being goofy and silly. And this person behind did this and was like, "I'm sorry, are you Spike Cohen?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And I'm like, crap. This guy's like, "Spike Cohen is a clown." Like, I'm like, what a joke, Spike Cohen. But yeah, so no, I actually do get recognized. It's not, like I said, it's not, like paparazzi, like, I have to shade my face so people can, whatever. But no, I get at least a few times a week, someone will come up and be like, either someone will come up and ask me if I'm Spike Cohen, or I'll get that look where someone's like looking at me and I'm like, this person knows who I am.
They know who I am.
Especially if Tasha's with me, because with the mask, you can't necessarily, it's a lot harder from this. But if it's me and Tasha, even with the mask, people are like, "Oh, you're Spike and Tasha. Oh my God." So it does happen. Brilliant. It does happen.
One thing I noticed, I think when I first met you till towards the end, was Tasha was more trying to stay off social media, kind of staying out of the pictures. But then as time kind of went on, it seems she was appearing in more pictures and showing up more, and also just more people knew her and what she looked like and all this. Was that like meant to happen, or was it just kind of like she realized, well, might as well?
She is not on social media. She has no social media. She's a very it's weird because she values her privacy, so she doesn't do much on the internet, like social media. She has no social media. Any of her friends that she wants to keep up with, she uses my Messenger, my WhatsApp, my all that stuff. So she has a WhatsApp, but she's she uses my social media to keep in touch with people. Now in person, she's the most bubbly you met her. She's the most extroverted. She wants to know everyone there. So she's not like a hermit or anything like that. She just doesn't, social media, the whole, anything you put on there is there permanently, all that stuff. She doesn't like that. So as the campaign went on, and as people were basically begging her to, because when we started this campaign, when I first decided I was going to announce back in like November, I went to her and I'm like, "Listen, this is what this looks like. Okay. If I get the nomination, I'm going to be out in the world 50-state tour." This was before the pandemic where, anyone would have thought that might not happen. But I'm like, we're going to be all over the country, blah, 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 and people like you, people meet you. They want to know you. You're beautiful. You're nice. You're smart. You're funny. You're thoughtful, caring. Everyone loves you. You're going to have people that are like, "We want Tasha. We want more Tasha. We want more Tasha. We want more Tasha." And, she was like, "Okay, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it." So when we got to it, because I think she also thought I wasn't going to get the nomination. But so when it happened, I'm like, here's what's going to happen now. Now, I told her the only thing that you're required to be at, that I'm going to really give you a hard time that you have to be at, is the convention. And I said this back when I first was asking her if she was okay with me running, because I would not have run if she wasn't okay with it. And I said, the only thing that I really require you to be at is the convention. It would look really weird if you didn't. After that, you really don't have to be at anything, even though people are going to want you there. Well, she was so beloved at the convention that she got invited to stuff. And they'd say, yeah, and Spike too, but can you come out, especially in Texas? Everyone in Texas wanted her. So it really just became as a result of people like, "Tasha, please, I need to, what's happening?" And also our social media messaging. People, "Where's Tasha? I want to see more Tasha. Was Tasha with you?" And so that kind of lent itself to her saying, okay, fine, I'll be in more pictures or whatever. But like, it was truly like we were supplying what was being demanded, which was, everyone had a fever, and the prescription was more Tasha.
Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want.
The real, I guess, highlight for me was how you guys at the election night party, you and LeQuinn and his wife went up and just took over the dance floor.
Yeah, I did the salsa dance. Yeah.
Yep. Nice. You do salsa.
Yeah.
Salsa-rada.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, so it was actually, we didn't do a rueda, but we did, we were doing partner trading.
Okay.
And people are always blown away when it happens because we were just up there dancing. What a lot of people don't know is like Tash and I are actually very accomplished Latin dancers. It's funny. I'll say that and people are like, okay, yeah, but no, we actually we are. We aren't professionals or anything, but there's, as amateurs get, we're about as good as it gets before being professional.
We need a Libertarian Dancing with the Stars or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder who wins that. Who wins the Libertarian? Well, let's make it Libertarian Salsa Dancing with the Stars. That could be a real bringer. But so we were dancing, but we had already said we're going to do like partner switching in between. And it's a real subtle thing. Like you're doing the look and I look over at LeQuinn and we just kind of look and then we just really literally just to the beat of the 1, 2, 3 our way over to the partner and then start with her. And people every time we did it, people were like, ah, like that. It was like, that's actually not difficult. But yeah, that was, we had said that we were like, yeah, we want to do kind of a salsa takeover at the beginning of the dance party. Because that was like right after Joe spoke, right? She was like the final speaker, and then they put on the music, and then we did the dance party. Yeah.
Oh, so just, my final question on this is: have you been in touch with Joe since the end of the campaign? Have you heard anything? Because she's kind of gone dark as far as we haven't really heard anything. Have you been in touch?
So I reached out to her. I wanted to give her some downtime after the election because I wanted to also give myself downtime after.
Rightly so.
After I slept for 3 days, I messaged her and just said, it was an honor to, I reached out to her and said it was an honor to campaign with you, and I hope that you're finally getting some rest. And thank you for this awesome I had a great. It's interesting. I didn't actually thank her because it was the delegates that chose me, but I thanked her for, taking part in this awesome opportunity together. And her response was basically like, oh, you're welcome. I'm glad we could do this. Also, I haven't gotten sleep. They've got me at a thing right now. And I was like, oh, okay, well, sorry. Hopefully you'll get sleep after that. But in general, it's interesting. Joe and I had met each other a few times during the nomination contest. And then obviously, work together during the campaign. But we didn't really, people assume because we're both in South Carolina and we're both libertarians that we already had this long history together. We actually didn't. First of all, she's like on the other side of South Carolina. So she's like 6 hours away. So, there are other states that are closer to me than where she is in South Carolina. But yeah, so we've talked since then, and I think she's enjoying her downtime. She's also teaching full time, so and in fact, even during that last month of the campaign, she had to augment her campaigning because she had restarted her teaching. So that's that. But yeah, we've talked since the campaign.
That's awesome. That's a good follow up.
Wow, we've gone longer than I thought we would, which is good. Do you have another question, Brooke, or was that it?
No, I'm Spike. It is always a pleasure to sit down and hear your conversations and your stories and experience. You're definitely one of our top guests at this point. So hopefully this will continue. Hopefully we'll hear some more stories at some point.
Oh,
but thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us the time.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me on. I couldn't do this without.
I knew it was coming. I
couldn't. I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for the Maverick collection from the Grondike Scope Company. And I hear, one of the, you might be thinking you're looking at this and you go, that's great. That's not for me. But I'm worried that this soap costs as much as 10% more than I can personally afford. Well, I have some fantastic news for you. If you use 10K Rum as the code on checkout, you will get exactly a 10% discount on everything you need, bringing it now down to what you can afford again. No, thanks so much for having me on.
You're awesome, man.
I had a blast. It's great that you had your friend on here. That you were able to have a friend on here.
I mean, I have two friends on here right now.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, you got two friends, but I've got Spike Cohen, my friend.
He's my friend.
You don't know him. He's Spike Cohen. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on. And I'm just getting started. I'm not going anywhere. This is just the beginning for this movement. And when I say this movement, like, yes, obviously I'm in the States. That's my primary focus. Libertarianism is not a United States centric thing. I am very much excited to work with the Libertarian Party of Canada and the Libertarian Party of the UK and the Libertarian Party of Australia and the Libertarian Party of France. And I mean, we have an international movement, and we can win across the this is about, I talk about and I said this during the campaign, setting the world free in our time. That wasn't what the campaign promise was, but that's what the promise of libertarianism. I usually do stuff either in the morning or in the evenings. There's
a light shining on you.
There's a halo,
the shining city on the hill. This is an interesting dynamic of what's happening now. But so, yeah, no, I mean, our goal is to set people free, and that doesn't end at a geographical border. And so what I'm saying all this to say is that I'm not going anywhere. I hope that everyone who's tuning into this isn't going anywhere. This was never about this election. This was about building something that will topple and dismantle these bad systems that are making our lives more difficult. That's what we are doing. This is not about a moment. This is about a movement, and moving forward, that is what I plan to do. And I am honored and grateful to be working with everyone that is going to be working with me to continue pushing that forward. Let's actually, the things that we talk about wanting to do, the things that we talk about in Libertopia, let's make Libertopia a real thing. Let's make it a real thing by bringing people into this movement, by setting people free, by getting people out of cages, by dismantling, removing bad people from power, and more importantly, not just the people, removing the bad people from power and ending the systems that they created and built up to be able to do the bad things that they wanted to do. Let's decentralize that power, put it back in the hands of everyday people, everyday Americans, and everyday people across the planet, so that people can live their lives and be free. Let's do that. If that's what you want, if you want to end the wars, if you want to end the caging of innocent people, if you want to end the internment of innocent people, if you want to remove felony records from people who did nothing wrong, if you want to end this skyrocketing cost of living, if you want to make things that we need every day affordable again by getting government out of it, if you want to take your life back, if you want to end these absurd lockdowns, if you want to have sanity back in our lives, that requires winning. And that's what I intend to do. And I hope you're all with me on that.
Come on.
Awesome. Wow. You've already taken, I mean, half of the pitch from me. Taking half the pitch away with what we do with Tactical Soap.
What we do with Tactical Soap is you can't set people free without the bond collection.
That's right. That's right.
Thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for my friend Spike for joining us.
Noted friend of Amos Joseph.
Noted friend. I will be so if anyone wants to support the show, do subscribe, leave a like, check out all of Spike's links below. I put those in the description. Check out the Muddied Waters. I mean, Muddied Waters has been around since I was actually looking this up the other day. You guys have been around since 2017.
2016. We actually December, the first episode of Muddied Waters was right after the election of 2016.
Were you part of it back then?
I was not. Well, I was part of it in that I was like doing like memes and stuff like that, but I didn't actually start doing a show until I first started subbing in on Muddy Waters of Freedom in 2017. I think mid to late 2017, and then started doing my own show in 2018.
Right. Okay. Yeah. We kept talking about it, and then we started like July of 2017 with this. So, but thanks for coming on, Spike. Anyone wants us to check out his stuff below. Also, if you guys want to support our show, all of our links are below as well. Yeah, we will from now on we're going to be on Saturdays because I just started a new job that starts up tomorrow, so we'll be on Saturday mornings instead of Sunday mornings. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you to Spike. Thank you to Brooke. We will see everyone next week.